Okay, you're looking at the iShares 20 plus year Treasury Bond ETF. That would be TLT. And a question arises, how do you draw the Gann Fan? Well, we start out with what you might call a dynamic Gann Fan, where you can change the scale on the fly. And you might try different levels, but here's one thing I would suggest to you. See if you can line up, uh, you know, former highs and then a low here, and just see what the scale is when you do that. In this case, it's 0.99480,813. Now, that's close enough to 1. So 1 point per week is the scale of this green 1 by 1 line. That means it descends at a rate of 1 point per week. And, if it's catching a lot of turns, a high here, a low here, we know we have the right scale. And you can see roughly it offered support here, the 2 by 1 down from high. So that's good. Now, the other thing you should probably look for is say, hey, if that worked down from high, what if we turned it around and said, hey, we want to draw that up from low and do the reverse. So let's see if the same Gann line would work drawn up from low instead of down from high. So instead of 1 point per week drawn down from high, we're drawing it up from low, and let's see what we get. It's 0.80, so we want that to be 1. And you can see that, except for the fact that this one took it out slightly, was more or less holding the 1 by 1 drawn up from low. So that's pretty cool. And as you recall, there was a 1 by 1 down from high that gave you support right here. So you've got it down from high, up from low. Let's go back and draw that again. So if you're looking at the Gann Fan lines, and we know it was roughly about there, and instead of 0.99, we just make it 1. Okay, so what I'm pointing out here is, how do you decide what the scale of the 1 by 1 should be? It's very simple. You start with a dynamic Gann Fan where you can control on the fly what the scale is, and you play around with it until you get a lot of hits. So you got a hit here, here, and here. And it seems like if this thing pulls back, if TLD sells off, it'll probably find support here at about 105.20, which is the support for this week on this 1 by 1 drawn up from low. So that's how you would do it. And, granted, you're going to have to play around with it a little bit to get it to work the first few times. But, if you have a scale that's working on the way down and it's working on the way up, that's what you want. And if it's working for the 1 by 1, chances are it'll work for the 2 by 1. So if we were to get up here to say 115 area, or 116 almost, then that would probably be resistance. So that's how you do it. If you're interested in doing your own Gann Fan, that's how I would do it. You draw one down from high, see if you can find an even number like 1 or 2 or at least, something of a round number that will fit the action of the market. You might say you're curve fitting to the market, but there's nothing wrong with that. You're finding the vibration of the market. So a lot of people accuse Gann of being subjective because you can change the scale, but the reality is it's not. All you're doing is trying to find the scale that fits the price action, and going forward that it's going to be very useful because it worked in the past, it'll work in the future. So, very simple idea, but a lot of people don't seem to understand that. Um, it's kind of like music. You're trying to find the notes that will create harmony that will sound good. And you can say, well, music is subjective, it's of no value. Well, a lot of people will disagree. And I say the same thing about Gann lines. You can say it's subjective, or you can acknowledge that, hey, this one by one caught this high, it caught this high, it caught this low, and this one by one up from low caught this low, and presumably if it sells off, it'll offer support here. So it's just giving you guidelines to know where resistance and support will be. If you can find where it was in the past, you'll know where it is in the future.